Things are not going good for the latest Sony shooter game, Concord. Right now, you can see on Metacritic, it has a 65 for critic score and 2.2 for audience score, which means most people are pretty much rejecting it. Now, however, there are still some people who do in fact want to play this game though, but because the game is doing so bad, it's looking like that's even becoming difficult for them. We got this article from That Park Place talking about it. Concord players reports over 8-minute wait time as a game has lost over 60% of its players already. And it's not like they had a huge player base to begin with. So losing 60% of them is not a good sign, especially if you do in fact want to play this game, because there's just not enough people to actually make a match with. Firewalk Studios Concord died right out of the gate, and the game's corpse is quickly being buried as one player reported he had an 8-minute wait time on Monday, August 26th. Concord went live on Friday, August 23rd, and only hit a peak concurrent player count of 697. That was a 70% decline from the game's open beta batch in July, which hit a peak concurrent player count of 2,388. And I decided to check on the Steam chart right now to see where it says, and currently, there are 92 players online, but maybe it's because I'm recording this in the morning, so maybe people aren't playing it right yet. 241 for the 24-hour peak is not a good sign. Just a 697 peak for the game is pretty terrible numbers, and it's no wonder that they're actually having a tough time even finding enough people to create a single match with, and why it takes 8 minutes for them to even get started. The player count did not improve over the weekend, and in fact declined by over 40% by Sunday, August 25th, when the game hit a peak concurrent of 402 players. The weekend has come and gone, and Concord's 24-hour peak concurrent player count continues to decline. On Monday, August 26th, the game hit a 24-hour peak of just 276 players. That's a 60% decline from Friday when the game launched. And this is terrible news for Sony, because some reports are saying that they spent around $100 million to produce this game. And when you're spending $100 million on a game, I think they're selling it for around $40, and they're only able to get 697 players to actually play the game. Well, then, yeah, it's looking like it's a pretty big bomb, and maybe one of the biggest bombs for Sony of all time. I'd have to double check those records on that one, but this is up there, I would imagine. But the question is why this is actually going on. And there are a lot of excuses for it. Forbes put together this list, top 10 reasons PlayStation's Concord has failed disastrously. And some of them, $40 for, oh yeah, so it is $40. $40 for a game that some people are, the same type that some people are releasing for free. Oversaturation of this type of market. Yeah, perhaps it took 8 years to make. Well, yeah, because I think that's also could be chalked up to budget, because when you spend so long actually producing something like that, then it's going to cost you more money because it's more man hours in order to actually produce it. So if it's taking this long to produce a game like this, well, then either you need to hire more people or you need to just hire better people, because apparently they didn't get their money's worth and it took so long to actually produce it. Extremely poor hero design and aesthetics. Yeah, there is something to be said about the design. A lot of people didn't like them, and there's something about the agenda they're trying to push with that, and that's kind of right here. The anti-woke crusade. Some are citing the game with its character design and pronouns in their bios as being the woke reason the game failed. That does somewhat link into the above, but not for the characters aren't hot enough reasons. The real issue here is that, yes, Concord didn't instantly launch with an internet hate campaign attached to it. That is not the reason the game failed, but it's just another thing dragging it down, and now the loudest people on the internet are, of course, saying the game went woke and as such went broke. I generally don't like the idea get woke, go broke, because I think it has things backwards. I think what happens more often than not is a company gets woke, and as a result, they go broke. And the reason I say that is because when a company is going woke, that means they're not necessarily hiring the best people for the job. They're hiring people because of the boxes they check. And when the studio is more concerned about the skin color of the people they're hiring, as opposed to the quality that they bring to the table, well, then that's usually an indicator that they're not going to produce the best results. And a lot of people will point out, like, well, the elements that people are complaining about this game aren't necessarily the woke elements. Yeah, there are some people complaining about the ugly characters and the pronouns and other things like that, but I think that's more of a symptom of the problem than the problem in and of itself, because you do get things like this where people just point out like legitimate reasons to criticize the game, the bad marketing, focus on motion capture and cinematics, gameplay design doesn't stand out, it's derivative, it's drowned out by other stuff, and just a lot of other legitimate criticisms for this game. Just for curiosity, I went on Steam to see the reviews for that because those are generally more favorable for it, but a lot of the times people are just critical over this game. It's not doing too well on there. There's a lot of not recommendations on there, and it is kind of legitimate ones that don't mention the woke elements. It's a mix of Overwatch and Paladins with Team Fortress 2. All three of those games are free to play, and you won't be forced to the most unappealing characters ever put in a game. Not worth $40 if it doesn't go free to play. It will be dead in a month. The game is just another hero shooter. An hour of gameplay was enough for me to get a refund. The game stinks, just a bunch of lifeless game models and uninspired maps. There's character roles, but no role queues, nothing to grind towards. You get the picture. People aren't complaining about the pronouns or the ugly characters or anything like that. Well, maybe a little bit. They said here the characters are just, right here, unappealing characters. But that's not the issue. The issue is the people working on the project weren't necessarily the best for the job. So that's why the game is like this. And then sometimes when you have companies like this, where that's the company culture, where they want to just focus on superficial characteristics of their employees, well, then naturally those elements will seep into the final product. So me personally, when I see a game like this, where it just has a bunch of ugly characters that have pronouns and other things like that, I'm not thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to play it because of those specific reasons. I'm saying like, okay, this company is focusing on the wrong things, and usually that's a huge red flag that there's going to be greater issues at hand. So maybe I should wait and see if there's actually something worthwhile in it, or if it's just going to be a flop. And more times than not, it's going to be a flop. Now, that's not always going to be the case. There's a lot of games that have woke elements to it that are actually pretty good, and I think those are the exception than the rule. But more times than not, when you have a game and a company that categorizes putting superficial elements over quality, whether it's their hiring practices or just in the gameplay itself, well, then this is going to be the final result. You have a game that's going to lose a significant hundreds of millions, or maybe not hundreds of millions, but tens of millions of dollars for Sony as a result of all this. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree with me on the get woke, go broke sort of thing? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share the video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.